Hello friends, Jeff here and welcome to Squadron, Facebook Live. I'm going to start with a little lesser news, a little sad news actually, and I think most of you guys already know that Gil Gonsolin passed away. Gil, you all know, is a fantastic guy, a great modeler, and sadly he passed away last Saturday at his home due to a heart attack. He was just a week shy of his 75th birthday. And for the ones that don't know Gil, or at least don't know of him, it's him and his wife always were, they had like a perfect attendance on our Eagle Quest and MasterCon for 20 some years, like a perfect attendance. So whenever Gil and his wife Sydney showed up, then they brought this special dynamic to the show. So whenever they showed up, we always know that the show was in full swing. So sadly, he passed away and he will definitely be missed. So I just wanted to express our condolences here. So Sydney, if you're watching this, please, from the whole team, we like to express our condolences for the loss of your husband. So if there is anything you need, please do not hesitate to contact us, and don't be a stranger. So I'm so sorry for your loss. That said, not much going on today. We're waiting for a new container to come in, so there is some new stuff in there that I can go over next week. But maybe it's another good time to tell a story. So I'm just going to tell you a story about bygone days. And now it's a story about honeymoon. Now you all might think like, why in the hell is he going to tell a story about his honeymoon? And it's actually not my honeymoon, it's my sister's honeymoon. So that's even more weird, I know. So if you want to leave, it's time to close your computer and walk away. If not, then you have to listen. And you might also ask, okay, is this related to the industry? Is this related to the hobby? And in a way, yes, once I start telling it, you will understand at the end what it's all about. So here we go. Now, turn the clock back again, many years, and I always, as a kid, even now, still, but as a kid, I always was very consumed by building models. You know, whenever I got a model kit, the world could go by, I wouldn't even notice it. I really was so focused on building the model that I forgot everything else, and I still do that once in a while. But way back, let's say 50 years ago, when I was like 8, 9 maybe, I come from a very Catholic household. I was always brought up very Catholic. They were strict. Now, they were not fanatic. My parents were not fanatic religious, but they respected the way of the church, and they were also very conservative and traditional. So old school people who really wanted to raise their family. But in a way, sex was taboo. In our household, you know, we never talked about it. It was very uncomfortable. My parents always tried to any innuendos, sexual innuendos. They didn't want to go there. I don't think they were able to handle it or anything. So, sex did not exist at the survival household. Now, however, I was born, my sister was born, and my older brother was born. So eventually, something must have going on behind closed doors with my parents, but we never talked about it. So it was completely forgotten. Now, I know the difference between a boy and a girl. I know that, you know, and I also knew how babies were born. I just did not know how to get there to that point. So to me, it was more like, for the longest time, I believed that if a boy showed his belly button to a girl, that produced a baby, and that's how I grew up with that mentality in place. So even television, even a better thing, like shows back then and movies were a lot more tamer than they are now. You know, way back they were all clean, nothing happening, except on the Dutch channel. You know, the Dutch, they were a lot more liberated than the Belgians were in that department. So even when the family was watching television, whenever my parents anticipated or thought that in the next 30 seconds a little bit too much skin was revealed, then they would trip over each other to fly out of their couch to the television to turn the button to another channel, because there was no remote, of course. So that's how I grew up, very naive. Now, my sister, she was a lot older than me. She was my father's, I mean, she was the apple of the eye, of his eye, of my father. She was his protege. So he always wanted to protect her from everything, from the outside world. It was always keeping my sister safe. You know, like he created this safety bubble around her, and always dropped off and picked up. It was absolutely, and he wanted to do that for the rest of his life, I guess, just keep everybody together and live happily ever after. Now, when she started dating, that was like, he knew that doomsday was coming and he had to let go, and his little girl was flying out the nest and find a way on her own. He knew that. So, okay, started dating, then she got engaged, and eventually she got married. So when that happened, you know, the old man was not maybe one of his best days, but he was happy in a certain way, but still, he just wanted to hold on a little longer. Now, the in-laws of my sister, they, if I remember correctly, I might be mistaken in that, but somehow I think they presented the newlywed couple with like a pre-honeymoon extended stay at the beach, like an extended weekend. Before they really went on a honeymoon, they had this, right after their wedding, they could go to the ocean, to the beach, and they rented an apartment for a couple days, and they could basically embrace their newly found vows and just away from everybody, away from the world, nobody looking over the shoulder, so they were able to have some alone time. So my dad really didn't think that was all a great idea, but you know what, like I said, he had to let go. Nothing he could do about it. But he made a plan that he said, you know what, let's drop your sister off, and then at least we know where she is. At least we know she's safe, that she arrived safely, that she checked in that apartment. Also, I have to remind, there were no cell phones, no computer. So my parents just wanted to reassure themselves that my sister would arrive well. So we all would went into like in caravan, in separate cars. We went to the beach. That took about an hour and a half. That took about let's say like an hour and a half to get there, because Belgium, as you well know, Belgium is only a small country and it's about 265 miles across. So if you live somewhere in the middle, it took about an hour and a half to get anywhere to the border. So long story short, it was a beautiful day, and I was loaded in the back of the car with my beach ball, my flippers, my flip-flops, my towel, my shovel, my little drag net so I could fish for some shrimp, and off we went to the beach. Beautiful day, like I said. We get there, and immediately I get out of the car, unloaded my junk, and just played in the sand. My father and my mother, of course, they were a little bit more reserved, so they sat on a beach chair, on a recliner, and my father in his three-piece suit and tie, and my mother in her flowery Sunday dress with her hat. At least she had the presence of time to take her shoes off. So they sat there for a couple hours, and then it was time to go home. So my dad said, okay, at the last minute, let's all have dinner. He invited us to go to a restaurant, and then we'll sign off and we'll go home. So during that meal, I don't know how that happened, but he, in a way, guilted or tried to lure my sister in a trap to keep me there. You know, in his mind, he said, well, you know, maybe he can stay with you. He won't be a trouble. He won't be a lot of trouble. He won't be a burden. He won't be a nuisance. And he doesn't have he doesn't really see the ocean all that much. So my sister, the saint that she is, she probably reluctantly agreed to keep me there. So that to my father was a big thing, because in his mind, I think I was just a peon that was placed there, like somebody to keep an eye on things, so there wouldn't be too much making whoopee going on in that apartment, and that all the lusts ricocheting off the wall, that would be a little bit reined in by me being there. So I think that was his idea, just to tone it a little down. But anyway, long story short, before they went home, they said, well, let's buy you a model. So he took me to one of these beach shops, you know, or for tourists, like where you can buy postcards or beach balls or sun cream or whatever is in a beach store. Now, I still remember that store, although it's more than 50 years ago. I still remember the name of that store, and it was like a French name. It was like Le Joie du Gosse, which means like a pleasure for children, like the children's joy. So when I get there in that store, and I remembered it very vividly, there was this shelf, and on that shelf between all the beach paraphernalia, there was a stack of Tamiya kits. Absolutely, I never saw a Tamiya kit in my life. I didn't even know they existed. But there in the middle of all that crap, all that beach crap, there was a stack of Tamiya kits, I think like 10 or 15. So my dad said, hey, pick one. And I was like, oh my God, this is getting better every minute. So I went through it and I saw it. So finally I picked, what was it again? A Centurion, a Tamiya Centurion. And the older guys of my generation, because that kit I think has been discontinued for a long time, but the Centurion was one of those kits that you could put together, and there was a little gearbox in there with an electric motor. And you could put that together and it would ride. You could switch it on and off with a battery. So in his mind, my dad thought, well, if I buy this kit for him, it will probably keep him busy for a couple of days, and by the time the kit is finished, we're ready to pick him back up and go home. Now, okay, I was, like I said, dropped off. My parents left, and I couldn't wait to put that Centurion together. So up I went, sitting in the living room, and opened the box and started gluing. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law came over and he looked at me and he looked over and he started participating in the build, and he helped me a little bit because I was still a kid and those kits were a little complicated than what I was used to. So finally we started building and all that kind of stuff. So lo and behold, instead of 3 days, that thing was put together in 3 hours. So later on, I sat there again with nothing to do on the couch with my arms crossed, staring in the abyss because there was no television. There was in that apartment, didn't have the television, so I was bored stiff. Now the other two, the newlyweds, they just wanted to get down to business because this is the first time that they were away from everybody, and all they wanted to do is do what they were supposed to do. So, but I was right there, and I had nothing to do, so they couldn't. So they said, well, let's make an evening stroll, go to another little shop out there, there was one close by, and see what they have. So, okay, I wasn't complaining. So we went to the store and they found me a little Airfix bag, like 50 cents, a plastic kit, a little airplane. So that would keep me busy for a little bit. So we get back to the apartment and my sister says, well, I don't feel all that well, and my brother-in-law like, well, yeah, we're both a little bit under the weather. We're not feeling well. We're gonna lay down a little bit. Just go ahead and build your model because we have to lay down because we're really not feeling well. I said, okay, I'm sorry, but I couldn't care less because all I wanted to do is glue that plastic thing together. So off they went, and you know what? They must have been sick because I could hear all these funky noises coming out of that bedroom, and I felt bad for my sister because she must have been in pain from all the noises that she made. And it's like, oh my God. Now, 30 minutes later or 45 minutes later, they came out of there and they were all fine. The disease was gone, the ailment was gone, and they were smiling. So I thought, well, laying down must be the way to go. Now, the funny thing is that in the next couple of days, that happened like 2-3 times a day. They got sick, get to the bedroom, get all the pain and the noises and all that, and every time I was building a model. So 2.5 days later, I had about 7-8 models done. So because for every time they went and lay down and tried to get rid of their ailment, I was building a model. So finally, my parents came back and picked me up and talked a little bit, and finally everything was loaded in the car, and we were driving home. So my father was driving the family car home, my mother sit next to it, and I sit in the back there, and looking at my models because I had them all displayed on the back seat. So my dad looks over and he says, you've been quite busy. That's quite a collection that you have there. And I said, yeah. I said, my sister was sick a lot. So he said, what do you mean she was sick a lot? And she said, yeah, she was like, every time they gave me a model, every time they were sick, they gave me a model so they could lay down a little bit. And I said, my sister must have been really in a lot of pain because I heard a lot of noises coming out of that room that I never heard before. So now in hindsight, my dad realized what was going on. So I still remember him driving the car, and every time I said a little bit more, I saw him slump over, you know, like completely distraught. My mother didn't want to make eye contact with him, so both of them just stared into the abyss on the way home, and for the rest of the journey home, they didn't say a word. So, but my point is that even as a kid, as a youngster, I was very, very, very focused on building a kid. So now these days, kids would immediately pick up on that. I just didn't realize what was going on there, and more power to them. But even today, again, if I am focused into a subject, if I have a new kid or something, or I'm really focusing on a topic, the whole world can go by, and all I see is the model in front of me. So, and sometimes my wife, when I'm in the middle of stuff, and my wife asks me something, and I said, yeah, I'll be there in 5 minutes, or I'll do this, and I forget. So, honey, if you're looking, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way, or I don't mean it that way, but that's just the way I'm put together. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, when you're ever focused onto a special topic, or a special whatever you're doing, model related, that we're all in this little tiny world, just focused on what we're doing. So that was about the story. It's not a long story, but it's a true story. It all happened, and in hindsight, it's very funny. You know, if you think about it, at least I think it's funny. But it just stuff that happens. You know, in a lifetime, when you look back, when you reflect on your life, and you think about a certain time in your life, when you're doing something, and that completely you get these funny stories out of it. And I thought this was one of the few times, or let's say of the many times actually, that I remember that it's something to do with a model, and that something funny or something so innocent came about. So anyway, now that you have anybody to...
Yes, we have some shout outs. So we have Susan L, Gary K, David M, Ty G,
Okay.
William B,
Okay.
a few more, Patrick M, Mark H, Mac, and Mark S.
I think I recognize them all.
Yes.
But hey guys, thank you for watching. Glad that you'll be here.
And Bob.
Oh, Bob. Okay,
Bob. Just two.
Well, I know a couple Bobs, so all the Bobs, thank you for watching again. Keep coming and keep watching. There's a lot more to come. So now, of course, you all want to know the most important people. I'm sure that a bunch have walked away already, but for the ones who are there, this is the most important thing of the show, which is the raffle. And last week, my good friend and colleague Richard Paulson pulled this book out for this week's raffle. So this is a Pico publication. It's a World War II photo book series. This is a very, very, very good book. It's also part of a series. So if you're the lucky winner, you might look into the rest of the series, because this is really worth collecting. So let's see. Okay, Nicole, I'll let you do the honors. I'm picking the lucky winner for the book. All right. Okay, let's see who that is. Dun, dun, dun. It's Frank Tozier. I hope I say that right again. Frank Tozier. If you're watching, Frank, congratulations. This is your book. So please call our customer service or send me a message on the help desk with your address, and we'll get this book out as soon as possible, so you can read it. I'm sure you got nothing else to do, but this is for you. And for next week, we're going to raffle off this one here, the Priest. Now, I always like this kit. I always like the Priest. I think this is the only one, if I'm not mistaken, that's available on the market. But this is for next week's raffle. So again, you know the drill. Leave a comment. You don't have to leave a comment You all, of course, you leave a comment when you're at the live show, but if you're missing the live show and you see this later on, please don't forget to leave a comment, and you will eligible to win this beautiful kit next week. Furthermore, I have a couple things to say. We have a weekend sale going on this weekend about an armor sale, anything armor related on selected items. Actually, it's 20% off on armor on selected items. So that's going on this weekend. So please check our website at squadron.com for anything new. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we have a new container coming in next week. So more on that in next week's video. But we have a whole shipment of new stuff coming in. So it is very, very important that you keep checking our website for updates. Then other than that, I think I said it all, I guess. Isn't that so?
Yeah.
Again, please share with your friends and family, because we still need your support to keep this channel, you can say, open, and that we can do this every Friday. So please share with your friends and family. Also subscribe, of course. The more subscriptions, the better, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And other than that, I wish you a very, very, very happy and sunny weekend. And I'll hope to see you again next time, next Friday at 12 o'clock Central. Jeff V here, signing off.